Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill McElroy, and I will be your tech person here for the night. Um, One thing we have to do is make sure you all mute yourself. If you're not muted, I will mute you. So it's always easier if you mute yourself. If you have any questions whatsoever, put them in the chat box. At this time, and I'll be monitoring the questions. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. This time, what I'd like to do is introduce Larry Loeb. Larry happens to be our District 5030 International Committee Chair. And so with that being said, Larry, it's all yours.
Good evening, everybody. It's always fun getting started here, making sure we got all of our technical things in place. But thank you for joining us. I'm starting my screen sharing. I have had some internet problems this last week, so if we have a bit of a problem and I start getting shaky, we'll switch over to one of our other presenters. So let's just go ahead and get started here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about international service and particularly the District Resource Network. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk just a little bit about what we do here at the district. And then we're bringing in three leaders from either the TRF cadre of technical advisors or people who work in the Rotary action groups. These are all very experienced professionals, and they'll talk a little bit about some of the skills that they can bring to us as we are developing our projects. So here's what our agenda is going to be tonight. I'm going to just have a couple minutes, and then I'll pass it on to PDG Jim Lutet. But let me just go through my part here first. First of all, our district resource network, it can be as informal or as formal as each district chooses to do. And it's basically comprised of resources and skills at several different levels. At the first level is your own Rotary Club members themselves. If you are one of those that are starting to develop a project, the first thing you can do is look to your own club to find members who have developed international projects before. They're a source of skill and knowledge and help you choose what kind of project to do, where to do it, and how to develop it. At the next level is the Global Grants Review Team. That is chaired by Kathleen Davis, and it is comprised of, I think there's 7 members, and these are the people who they review your application for district designated funds, matching funds from the district, but they also review your grant and provide you guidance in terms of things that they have experienced that will help you get your projects approved with the foundation when you finally submit it. The third leg of that is the district ISC chair, which is myself. My primary responsibility is connect you, the clubs, and the project writers to all of the skills in our district and outside of the district. So I chair the meetings where we do that basically twice, maybe 3 times a year, where your own clubs can request funding and support. You present your projects in a forum with all of the clubs, and you can request funding. I also have the responsibility to connecting you with district skills and resources. There are other clubs who have experience in one of the now 7 areas of focus, was 6. If we know we've got one of them, we can put you in touch with them. I also provide some connection with out-of-district support requests, both requests from other countries who are asking our support and they have projects to propose to us, or if you have a project which you need outside resources or funding, I can put you in touch with other districts. Now, this is a really complex chart, so I won't try to talk to it, but 2 key elements of resources and skills that you can draw upon, and I mentioned it earlier, are the cadre of technical advisors and the Rotary action groups. These are the cadre of technical advisors is basically a group of people. There's about 700 members from 75 plus countries, and they can provide you support in planning your project, doing community assessments, addressing some of your sustainability requirements that the foundation has. They can help you with monitoring and evaluation plans, answering questions about Rotary areas of focus, and also providing financial management best practices. I'm very familiar with that last one. On my very first grant, when I finished my project, they did a financial a financial review of it. And although it was very frustrating, I learned a lot. And some of those lessons I learned from that, I still continue on all my projects since then. Now, the Rotary Action Groups are independent Rotary affiliated groups. Most of the people in them are Rotarians, but they're not part of Rotary International itself. They are primarily experts in a particular field. There are, I don't know how many in total, probably over 100, but there are 27 area of focus related Rotary Action Groups, and we're going to hear from a couple of those tonight. They also can provide expert advice in planning and implementing your service projects. They can connect you with potential partners, both inside and outside of Rotary, and they can also help with fundraising and obtaining resources for projects. So many of us don't really know much about the cadre and the Rotary Action Group. So tonight we're going to talk about 3 of our areas of focus with the 3 members. And by the way, I've got a whole bunch of links that you can go to the My Rotary, and I don't want to spend any time on this thing, but you can actually get the slides that slide that I started with. You can also get listings of all of the advisors and all of the officers in all of these Rotary Action Groups. And you'll hear more about that from Jim when he speaks. So with that in mind, I've taken 2 minutes longer than I should. The first area of focus is community economic development. Our speaker is going to be PDG Jim Luted. He is the past president of the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development. He's the chair for the Rotary Action Group of the Chairs Council. He's been a Rotarian. I'm going to read this just a little bit. He's been a Rotarian since early in 2005, where he was a founding member of the Rotary Club of Lima Sunrise. That's Lima, Peru, by the way. He was there for a couple of years. He came back to Toronto and became a member of the Toronto Sunrise Project. He was a district governor from 2016 to 2017. And starting July 1st this year, he will assume the role of the member of the Foundation Community Economic Development Major Gifts Initiative Committee, and he'll serve in that job for 3 years. 3 years. So with that, take it away, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Larry, for that kind introduction. And thank you for the invitation to speak at your Festival of Training workshop on international service today. So fellow Rotarians, it's a pleasure to provide you with information on how you can have successful community economic development projects for your club. And to give you a better understanding of some resources available for you, I first want to provide a general overview of Rotary Action Groups, and then more specifically, the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development, including the various types of projects that cover this area, and how using the resources of an action group can cover the impact or can increase the impact and reach of your projects. Next slide, Larry. So for those of you not fully aware of what an action group is or does, this part of the presentation should help in increasing your knowledge of them. So who are they? Well, they're independent, international Rotary affiliated groups whose members have expertise in a particular area of specialization. They are passionate, like-minded Rotarians, their family members, and Rotaractors from clubs all over the world interested in advancing Rotary's objectives by working together on a common cause. They are also Rotary program alumni, anyone who has participated in a Rotary or Foundation program, and any other non-Rotarian. Until last year, membership in action groups was only for individuals, but now Rotary clubs, Rotaract clubs, and districts can also join an action group. While membership is open, only Rotarians, Rotaractors, and Peace Fellows can serve in leadership roles. What do they do? Well, align with Rotary's priority to increase humanitarian impact. Action groups use their knowledge to help clubs and districts plan and carry out impactful service projects. Each group oversees its own governance, membership, and activities in accordance with RI policies. They can provide subject matter expertise, project planning, and implementation experience in various service areas, which you will see in the next slide. Next slide. So action groups view themselves as a resource and one of Rotary's causes that build international relationships, improve lives, and create a better world, which are, and there are 7 of them: fighting disease, promoting peace, providing clean water and sanitation, supporting education, saving mothers and children, growing local economies, and our newest cause, protecting the environment. And you can see from the slide who the action groups are, and there are 27 of them, as Larry said. In my role as chair of the Rotary Action Group Chairs Council, I work with all the action group chairs, and one mandate is to assist in getting the word out about the work that we do globally. Next slide. So as I just mentioned, there are 27 active action groups with over 27,000 members out there ready to work with you as a resource for your club's projects. Excluding the action group for reproductive, maternal, and child health, which has a reported membership of 8,000 plus, the average membership of an action group is 670 people. So why does reproductive, maternal, and child health have a lot more members than the average action group? The main reason is free membership, while the remaining action groups have a membership fee to cover off their administration costs. An average of $25 for a 1-year membership or $100 for a 5-year membership. Action groups members represent more than 150 countries around the world. And on average, there are 45 countries represented in each action group. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, action groups comprise of members who have expertise and experience in an area of specialization. The Action Group for Community Economic Development, the acronym is RAG-CED, have members who are passionate, like-minded people who join to broaden and deepen Rotarians' understanding of community economic development. They want to be a source of knowledge and expertise that enable clubs and districts worldwide to plan, implement, and manage impactful and sustainable economic development projects and create lasting change in poor and underserved communities. They look to create opportunities by investing in communities around the world where families struggle to meet their needs for food, shelter, work, and economic security. And they work with leaders in Rotary and external organizations to build stronger partnerships to support community economic development projects. Next slide. So to give you a little history of RAG-CED, they were organized in 2007 as the Rotarian Action Group for Microcredit. Some of you may have heard of them, and became more commonly known as RAGM. As the focus changed from just microloans to a larger umbrella of microfinance services, including savings and insurance, a name change was made in 2012 to the Rotarian Action Group for Microfinance and Community Development, keeping the acronym RAGM. And then at their annual general meeting in early July of 2020, the latest change was announced to become the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development with a new acronym, RAG-CED. And just a point of information, all action groups were mandated to start with the name Rotary versus Rotarian, just to promote the fact that all members did not have to be a Rotarian. Next slide. So why the recent change to the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development? Well, first they want to better align with one of Rotary's causes, which is growing local economies. While starting as an action group for microcredit, they have evolved over the years and recognize that microfinance is only one element of community economic development. Second, they want to meet the needs of our broader base of Rotarians and beneficiaries. Thus, they work in impoverished communities to strengthen local entrepreneurs, especially women, and their community leaders. As I mentioned earlier, Rotarians are passionate, and RAG-CED members want to provide sustainable solutions to alleviate poverty globally. Next slide. So how can we help? Well, this slide shows a few ways of how we can help you with your projects. As an example, we can provide expert advice, assistance with a needs assessment, help with funding sources, training, and education, project evaluation, to name a few. Next slide. This slide shows what we consider the elements or pillars of a successful community economic development project. The needs assessment confirms that the community is welcoming of and ready for economic development. This is especially important and necessary if you're applying for a global grant. Education provides the entrepreneur with the skills and plans needed to create a successful, sustainable business. A reliable source of loan capital ensures access to funds when needed for business investment. Mentors advise and support the entrepreneur during the process of moving the business from plan to reality. Networking creates awareness and partnerships that help the business grow into current and new markets. Monitoring and evaluation measures progress against goals, recommends changes as needed, and reports status to stakeholders. Next. During the Rotary years of 2014 to 2020, RI has approved 1,224 community economic development grants for a total of $73.7 million. These grants were provided to build capacity to spur economic growth in various communities, developing opportunities for entrepreneurs to create or expand their businesses, and providing economic scholarships. Next. This slide shows the various types of projects approved for global grants covering community economic development activities over the last 7-year period. Vocational training received the most dollars at $27.3 million, followed by agricultural development at $16.1 million, graduate scholarships at $10.8 million, small enterprises incubation development at $7.7 million, and microfinance at $4.5 million, totaling $66.4 million. A lot of money has gone out there for that help. The scholarships are mostly for master's degrees in CED and some PhDs for those planning to teach or work in a specialized position covering CED. The remaining project types: community youth leadership development, adopt a village, community infrastructure, other, and gender class equality and economic empowerment take up the other $7.3 million. And just for information, the other category covers grants combined with CED and either of WASH or BELRAG. And for those, everybody knows WASH-RAG. For BELRAG, that's basic education and literacy. They just changed their name in July. Next slide. You might ask, how would we enhance Rotary's impact and public image? We believe by joining community economic development, club members will be able to connect with like-minded Rotarians outside their own club and engage in service activities in an area they're most passionate about. These opportunities to connect and serve help diversify and improve the Rotary experience of club members. Also, we can help clubs scale up smaller projects to larger, higher impact, more sustainable initiatives as we bring technical expertise, partners, funds, and other resources to projects. These high impact projects advance a club's public image first and foremost and help develop stronger clubs with more engaged members pioneering innovative, impactful community economic development service projects. But isn't this what it's all about? Rotarians working together with passion on their projects to create sustainable, positive change in communities. Next. I now want to briefly talk about 3 examples of projects elevating Rotary's impact and reach. The first in a developing country is the Honduras Economic and Community Development Program that started in 2013. Why was Honduras picked? Well, this was a multifaceted vision of a pastor to governor from District 5360 covering microfinance, water, and health. As well, the action group had a few members in the region who knew microfinance, so the potential for a strong partnership was there. To date, over $2.5 million has been donated to this project, with the most recent global grant approved on December 31st of 2019 for this latest phase. So far, over 9,000 entrepreneurs have been helped, with 56% of them being women. But this overall project is just not about microloans. It is about building sustainability in various communities within Honduras. In addition to loan capital, providing safe drinking water, teaching financial literacy, and ongoing client support are important tools used by the local partner. From the perspective of one of our implementing partners, a large microfinance institution, they see this as a win-win for all. The partnership has seen positive leverage and impact due to working in several communities within Honduras, as well as seeing matching funds both through the Rotary Foundation and their own foundation. And partnering with a global institution further ensures sustainability. They have seen new donors come in because of their involvement with the Honduras project, a combination of the credibility of Rotary and the quality of the project on the ground. The second example is Launch Detroit, started by Rotarians in District 6400 to support and develop entrepreneurs and small businesses in under-resourced communities in the Detroit region by providing access to business loans, business development services, and networking opportunities. Since being approved for a $52,711 global grant and a pilot relaunch, they have put 25 entrepreneurs through the program since 2019. In total, Launch Detroit has assisted 57 entrepreneurs in starting or expanding their businesses. The latest phase of this project was just started in October of 2020, and they now have another 11 new entrepreneurs. Launch Detroit has positioned the host club, the Rotary Club of Detroit, as the place where entrepreneurs in underserved communities can realize their dreams, as this is the only program in the area that offers microloans, networking opportunities, mentors, and free business training. The project has also brought in volunteers and financial support from other Rotary clubs in Detroit and the region. These Rotarians serve as mentors, committee members, and volunteers. Next. So the last example is Launch Raleigh, a project started by the Rotary Club of North Raleigh. For those of you who have read April's issue of the Rotary magazine, you will have seen a story called Launch and Learn. This is Matthew Kane's story about starting Launch Raleigh in 2017. If you haven't read the story yet, I would suggest you do so for more information. To give you a start, Matthew's vision for Launch Raleigh was based on what he read and learned about Launch Detroit. He then contacted 2 Rotarians from District 6400 to see how he could replicate the program in Southeast Raleigh. Based on his discussions and acquiring needed support from his community, he started a program with about $60,000 in seed money. So to learn more about Launch Raleigh, check out the Rotary magazine. The story starts on page 46. So if you've seen and heard throughout the presentation, there are resources out there to assist you with your projects. Action group members are individuals with the necessary subject knowledge, experience, and willingness to serve as guides and mentors to enable the success of your projects. As a matter of information, all of the action groups have been mandated by RI to have one cadre technical officer on their board to provide professional expertise on that action group's area of concentration, effective July 1st of this year. And as you'll find out, the next 2 speakers are both involved with the cadre of technical advisors. So you'll hear more about their respective programs. So don't be afraid to reach out to us, to any of us. We are here to work with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Jim. As you see, there's just a phenomenal amount of resource and skill available to us as we develop our projects. Now, what I would like you to do is hold off on any individual questions. You can put them in the chat, and we will address them at the end of the 3 presentations in a forum where all 3 speakers, because oftentimes the answer may be, depending on which speaker has the best experience, we'll address it. So with that, I would like to go to the next topic, which is key factors for successful environment projects. And our speaker is Jay Collingham. Jay is, in his professional world, he's a supervisory biological scientist at the U.S. Geological Survey.
How is it?
He oversees research laboratories and operations.
Find out, I guess.
Whoops, we got somebody in there? Okay. He oversees operations for the USGS in Boulder, Colorado. And he's got an extensive background in science kind of activities. Rotary-wise, He joined Rotary in 2008, and I think he told me that he has he did that in our own Rotary Club of Sammamish here. So those of you who were Rotarians back in 2008, you may recognize Jay. Since then, he's moved on. He's held membership in 5 clubs, and he's currently the president-elect in the Boulder Flatirons Rotary Club. So with that, Jay, would you like to move forward with your presentation?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Larry. Thanks for the introduction. And Jim, great presentation. Thank you. I'll go back one slide real quick, just because I think that there's a couple little things I just point out real quick on that first slide that I think could be helpful for us here. If we could go back one. Thank you. So yeah, just the top bullet point there. I wanted to point out real quick that up until now, I've been working on cadre work for Wade and for a few other programs, including some partnership programs, which most people aren't aware of, and figure since this is an opportunity to make people aware of what solutions and programs are out there. There is a current program with USAID and the Rotary Foundation called Hearts of Europe, and that's another global grant program that includes an additional match from USAID, which is a US government federal program from the State Department. In that program, you work with a Central or Eastern European Rotary club and work on a project. There's a few different areas of focus that qualify. And if the program meets the goals for that grant, then you can also get an additional matching fund. So I think it's up to maybe like 60,000 more, but it basically ends up being an extra 50% more of your total funding. So I just want to point that out real quick. Some people haven't heard of that one yet, but you can search it on Google or on the Rotary website and find out more, or reach out to me and I can connect you with people who are doing that if you're already interested. Thank you. We move on to the next slide. All right, well, I have some great and bad news. The good news is that we have a new area of focus. If y'all have been paying attention to any of the Rotary Magazine articles on our new environmental area of focus called Protecting the Environment, or you've been active on the Rotary website, you'll see that starting July 1st, it's a lot of big changes with global grants, and one of them is a new area of focus in which you can apply for a global grant. Currently, there's not a lot of information available about what grants qualify, but I can tell you a couple of them. Some of the things that people have asked me about quite a bit is whether or not climate change programs and projects will be allowed, and they will be. Education programs. So you can do educational programs on environment and protection of the environment, as well as scholarships, which has been something that many people have not had an opportunity to do, but you can provide global grant scholarships for people to do research or to do studies on protection of the environment. So I know that that's something that's super exciting for many districts. And I remember from back when I was in your district that we did have, in the old scholarship program, we had lots of scholars coming to the Pacific Northwest as well as going out to international schools. So you will be able to use this on environmental projects that include scholarships. The last bullet point on this slide I thought could be super helpful is that we have done a lot of work on the policy language, and the program has been reviewed. I was a part of the group of folks that were reviewing that policy language, and we were able to give a lot of recommendations to Rotary to make sure that what they're going to be putting out for all of our clubs to take advantage of in global grants will be inclusive. It will have a wide breadth and coverage of interests. So that way, if you are interested in doing an environmental education project, let's say, it will most likely have some coverage of that type of work as well. There are many things that I didn't list on this slide that will be included, but I did find that that would be something that might be interesting for people to know, is that we did have a lot of input from people all over Rotary, and I'm sure that they had some external people as well review this. And so hopefully anything that you might have on your back burner or an interest to your club could possibly become a global grant with the right partnerships. Move on to the next slide. All right, so just a quick background. Many people heard the immediate past president, Barry Rassin, talk about one of the major factors that played into the creation of this area of focus, and that was just seeing how much impact sea level rise is and will have in his home country in the Bahamas. And I know, having grown up in the Pacific Northwest, I'm a 6th generation Washingtonian, and I know that that's always been a major consideration and interest for people that live in the Puget Sound area, along the coast, and the Columbia River. So I did want to bring up that some of the same impacts people are concerned about in our district, well, your district, they're the foundation of some of the indications that created this area of focus. So I thought that might be of interest to y'all. And then we were fortunate enough to learn a lot about the Rotary Action Groups, and we saw that there was the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group as one of the major ones that fits under this cadre. But I did also want to highlight the Endangered Species Rotary Action Group will be included as well. There's a bunch of other Rotary Action Groups that are impacted by environmental change and stresses, as well as can lead into it. So everything from education all the way to disease control and prevention. Malaria is another big one. But I wanted to highlight some of that because I think that we're working together. I have contacts and work with people in the Rotary Action Groups, and we're hoping that we can have a lot of cooperation between the two in order to make sure all of these global grants have the most technical expertise possible and as much as needed. So what does this all mean? I'm throwing a lot out there. So Wade is going to be the presenter who talks a bit more about cadre. It's something he's in charge of cadre for North America. So I think that he'll be a really great person to give more of that information, and he'll be the next speaker. But I did want to highlight some of the things about what this means for your club. Your clubs and international partners can apply for global grants. I think that these projects we're going to see, they're going to be both environmental related and ecosystem related. Preservation of the environment is obviously something that many people are concerned about, but also there are many other types of projects that could be considered. So once that guidance is available to everyone for July 1st, then we'll start to see what kind of projects roll in. I'll be playing the role of the person who helps distribute and assign cadre to those roles as the technical advisors to the Rotary Foundation on the global grants. I'm also hoping that we might see more US hosted projects with international partners, giving us their support to do education, preservation, and even idea sharing here in the US. I was fortunate enough to see some of that start in Chicago with Peace, and the South Side of Chicago had a club, an international partner in Germany that helped them host a global grant in Chicago, which was really exciting. I think we definitely have many opportunities to learn from other countries here and maybe deploy some global grants within our own country. My last big bullet point here is that we're just excited to work with new communities around the world. I know that there are many clubs that don't participate in global grants, both in the US and abroad. And I think it'll be very exciting to see if we get more engagement, because environment impacts everything. So I'm hopeful that if you haven't participated in a global grant, maybe this might be the opportunity for you. We'll go to my last slide, which is just a resource slide. So when you get your copy of the presentation, there's a few links in here for you. I put in some of the Rotary Action Group links just to make it easy. But you'll also have my contact information from this, and I'm almost certain Rotary International will give it to you because they already published it on their website and the magazine. So you have access to me as well if you have any questions on this area of focus as it grows and develops.
Thank you, Jay. what an interesting and exciting new area of focus we're going to have. I did want to mention to you, our district does have an environmental working group, and the chair of that, Herb DeSmet, was not able to make it tonight. He was disappointed. He contacted me earlier, but I'm sure you are going to be getting questions from them after this session is over or in the following days.
Wonderful, thank you.
So our next speaker, and he has just joined us. He was actually making a presentation in another location, so he has just joined us. Wade, are you here?
I am here, thank you.
Good. I thought I saw you being admitted there. Wade, PDG Wade Nomura is known to many of us. He has been involved in the cadre on WASH projects for some number of years. I've got a long description. His CV would take half of his speaking time. So let me just give you a couple key points about Wade and then let him take it from there. He is a global humanitarian. He's a community leader. He's a mayor of Carpinteria in California, I believe. He's a successful businessman and a champion athlete. And he's educated and inspired audiences around the world. Within Rotary, particularly his work with the cadre, he's worked on over 200 charitable projects and been on 50 international project missions. He is currently the chair of all the Rotary Cadre Technical Advisors of WASH Worldwide. And he is known to any of us in the ISC world. And if you're a WASH person, you probably have heard from Wade or even had communications with him. So with that, Wade, why don't you tell us a little bit about WASH?
Great, thank you very much, Larry. Thanks for having us. Yeah, actually I am in Atlanta. I'm actually speaking outside because the event is still going on. I just finished the keynote. So let's jump right into this one. First item up is we're talking about is community assessments. And I want you all to be aware that it is not really, when I say some people consider that just another hoop to jump through, community assessments, in my opinion, is going to create or break the success of any global grant. So take a look at these points. You'll be able to find this information also on the community assessments tools. That's a 605 EN form. That is important in itself because this is where you gain your partnership. This ensures success of a global grant project, and it also has sustainability components already built into that one. So don't shortcut that portion of it. Now I'll give you some examples as I get into the next portion of the presentation. Next slide, please. This picture here is the picture I took in Mexico. Again, it's a successful water project, as you can see. But I wanted to put this one in there because, in my opinion, of the 7 areas of focus, water, sanitation, and hygiene is probably the most important. And when I say that, if you look at all of the other areas of focus, if you don't have water, you don't have anything. You do not have a future to stand on. If it's, for example, education, if the people are sick, you're not going to get that. If you're trying to build an economy, it's the same thing. You will not be able to build an economy if, in fact, there's no water available. So take a look at that when you do your assessments. Make sure that water is addressed. Next slide, please. This is another one of the project sites I went to. This one, again, is in Mexico. Fortunately, I'm bilingual in Spanish, so I have a lot of opportunity to do projects and evaluate those around the world. I put this picture in there because I wanted to show the importance of a community assessment. This project we identified as a village. It's a Purapechan village in central Mexico that was in dire need of water. They were actually drinking water from a lake that was grossly contaminated. And when we took the project to them, they said, yes, in fact, we do need water. You know, a lot of us are getting sick, but we don't need it that bad. What we need is a health clinic because so many of our people are suffering from diabetes. About 27% of that population was actually suffering from diabetes. Well, I told them, I says, if you start with the water component first, that's going to help you out quite a bit. We would like to see the water go first, and then we will address the needs based on what you're talking about. And this would be health, especially trying to get insulin to those people that were suffering from diabetes. They also told me in this village that they did not want water because of the fact that treated water tasted bad and was making them sicker than them drinking polluted water. What we found out, in fact, was that 20 years before that time, the government in Mexico actually installed a water filtration system that was based on chlorine, chlorinated injection into their drinking water. Well, what happened was this thing was calibrated at 10 times the amount of chlorine going into the water. So these poor people were actually drinking high doses of chlorine in their water, hence the smell and the flavor and why they were getting sick. So we did change that system out. Once we had that put in place, we noticed immediately, and this has happened about a year later on an evaluation, that not only were they now looking healthier, but when we took a look at those people that were suffering from diabetes, we found that that rate had dropped now to 12%, or actually then suffering from diabetes, less than half. What we found and discovered was, in fact, that for these people, it was cheaper for them to buy soda and punches than it was for them to buy water. And that's why they were suffering from diabetes, because of their diet. So again, if you look at community assessments as part of the tool, you will be able to identify this, but you have to go beyond to find it out and make sure that you're covering all aspects of that one. Next slide, please. This picture here is a picture from Guatemala. This village here is, let's see, they are Mayan Chorti people. And the reason that this project was done, this was a global grant project funded by a club from Canada, was that these people were actually suffering grossly from malnutrition. They found that the people were actually being stunted and only attaining about 85% of their actual height because of being the malnutrition. Also, unfortunately, it was impairing their mental development about the same. They were only achieving about 85% of that one. So the idea was to then give them an agricultural project. This agricultural project taught the people how to grow their own food and gave them enough knowledge and enough resources to actually have extra to where they could sell as part of the economic development of this village. Next slide, please. This picture here talks to us about the educational component of any global grant. It's essential that you have the host clubs working with you and also have them work with the communities, because buy-in is something that if you don't have that, you will not have a successful project. Buy-in, and when I say buy-in, the people that are going to be the beneficiaries are the ones that should actually feel they are the owners of that once this project goes away. And when I say that, as Rotary pulls out, as the Rotarians pull out, as you as an international partner and as the host start moving out, this will become self-sustaining. And that's why education becomes such an important tool and part of any global grant. Next slide, please. I talked to you about the agricultural project. This is a picture here showing how successful that agricultural project was in Guatemala. And you can see there that the success factor of them being able to raise their own food was very crucial and also very successful. All the village people, all of the families were then able to grow their own food, and nutrition issues became less of a problem. Next slide, please. But when I talk about the success of that project, when I did go over there, I noted how successful the project was. But I did want to show you, as people that are going to be doing global grants, the importance, again, of a community assessment. The water puddle that you see there and the girl that is at that place, she came down to this hole, which was their water source, literally for 7 different families, bathed her younger brother, and then took the water that you see in those containers there back home for consumption. That shows that, in fact, even though they had dealt with the nutritional factors, they are still going to have problems with malnutrition because of dysentery. So there again, you have to take a look at including as much as you can in any global grant when you take a look at doing community assessments. Next slide, please. My final slide here, these are the outcomes. The success of any water project is based on knowledge, education, and the ability of these people in these different areas being able to monitor, control, and make sure that the water stays the way it stays. As cadres, technical coordinators and technical advisors for the Rotary Foundation, there has been a change in role. And when I say that, originally we were the ones that went out and evaluated projects globally to make sure that they had reached their maximum efficiency and the ability then to make sure that money was not diluted or that we got as much as we could out of those projects. The new mission of the Rotary Foundation cadres now is to become a resource for districts and clubs. So those of you that are taking a look at doing new global grants and you want, maybe your first time and maybe you've done many of them, it's important to realize that the Rotary Foundation cadres advisors are a resource for you also. Now, my suggestion would be is that you could work through Larry and your district to make sure that you have, in fact, somebody from the cadre program to assist you. This is free to you. We have a lot of cadre members on standby to assist you with experience, expertise in not only doing projects, but also in doing global grants. So it's an important part of it when you're in the planning stage to reach out, get a cadre member to help you at least do the planning stages. Once you're in the planning stages, they will follow through to make sure that you have the implementation that you need and that you will be more successful in getting that grant approved and having a successful project. So with that, that concludes my portion of it. What I do want to tell you that the Rotary Foundation cadres is one of the valuable tools that you will find in going through grants, whether you're experienced or whether it's your first time. But please reach out through us through the district, because we do not want to supersede any district people, staff, and we want to make sure that everybody is involved to have that successful. With that, Larry, thank you very much. I'll be around for a little bit more.
Thank you very much, Wade and Jay and Jim. It's wonderful to hear one of all these successful projects. And it's also nice to know that that same skill that you have developed and the people that have done these things can now be made available to us as we develop our following projects. Now, Bill, have you found very many questions here? What I'd like to do is we've got about 15 minutes left here, and I would just like to have the three of you available as a panel. And if we can throw out any of the questions that you have there. Bill, do you want to read those off?
The only really question I have at this time was the importance of sharing of the slides. And so I know that's going to happen. I think it was mentioned beforehand. But I think at this time, if anybody has a question, they can just raise their hand and open up the microphone and ask the question. It'd be fantastic.
You're right. Do we have any questions of them? Oh, I do see a couple questions in here. Let's see. Can we get a copy of the presentation file? Yes. What does USAID stand for? I think you were mentioning that, Jay. You just go ahead and fill in the gaps on there.
Yeah, so I answered that one in the chat box directly to that person, but USAID is the U.S. Agency for International Development, which is part of the Department of State at the federal government. It's a federal agency, would be kind of similar to like the US EPA, which maybe more people are familiar with.
So I have a question. And what really one of the things that you mentioned, Jay, kind of caught my ear about the fact that the grant possibility in Europe and how that's being multiplied again on a duplication effort. We're kind of familiar with that with the Gates Foundation, with the polio efforts. So from the panel here, is there any more opportunities like that you see out in the world of that might be available? That's a multiplication effect, not only a grant from Rotary and multiplying up, but also there's an extra amount of money that might be available.
And just to fill Wade, and I think, Wade, we're talking about the Hearts of Europe. That was just one of the things that I participate in, so we mentioned that.
Thank you. Answer would be yes, there are multiple ways that we're going to go right now. Knowing that Rotary has limited resources, what we are doing through the foundation is we are taking a look at partners that would be able to help us with the same similar type of mission, where we could tap into them and actually partner in. We were finding, for example, in the hand wash, the CED projects for water and sanitation hygiene, that majority of the funds are actually coming from outside organizations such as USAID, such as World Vision. And it's important that we realize that the more partnerships we have, not only is it going to create greater impacts because we have more money, but also we also now are tapping in on more expertise from everybody throughout. So I think that's an important factor that we have to look at as we go to larger global grants.
And one that I would highlight real quick that kind of touches on Jim's world is that I've been invited to conversations for federal agencies to talk with Rotary action groups. An example would be the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group and their desire to be more involved with the US Geological Survey. So I get to play kind of a weird in-between role as they develop their MOU and how they're going to work together. And then eventually that might develop into more.
By the way, another area where US aid is being used, they are offering 3 grants. They're partnering with Rotary International, and I think Rotary comes up with $2 million and USAID comes up with $2 million, and there are 3 countries in competition right now, one of which is Ethiopia. And I've been working with them. They're actually considering asking our district to partner with them on that if they get it. And it would represent $4 million worth, and I think it's for wash kind of projects. Are you familiar with that, Wade?
I've heard some, but there again, there's quite a few of them that are actually coming out and reaching out to us. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more with that similar one. But yes, definitely so. It's a good one.
Yeah, and if I can add to that as well, we're working, Community Economic Development is working with an organization in the US. Ethiopia was one of the countries mentioned. Senegal is one, and USAID is involved, and they're putting in money as well. So what we're looking at is it's a partnership between Community Economic Development and WashRag, if we move forward with it.
Great.
Do we have any other
real quick, there was one more point I would like to make, and that is I'd like to request, Larry asked me to take a look at how many Rotary Foundation cadres we have in District 5030. Currently, we don't have any, and so I'm asking you and reaching out. It would be great if some of you would be interested in actually applying for and going through the process of becoming trained as a Rotary Foundation cadre, because that resource for your district would be invaluable. It's a huge push forward, especially realizing, and I don't know if you know this, but in the future, within the next, well, by the next Rotary year, we are going to be changing grant applications and a lot of the requirements. So this will bring you up to speed right away at the district level. You know exactly what the changes are going to be as soon as they get rolled out.
Thank you, Wade. I will take the responsibility of getting that request out to all of our ISC chairs and all of our clubs here, and we'll see if we can get a candidate for you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
I don't see anybody else, Larry. We're good to go.
Okay, then I guess we're finished. I will be sending out to anybody that asks for it a copy of this presentation, and there are several other related ones which are lists of the cadre representatives and some of the Rotary Action Group officers in each of the Rotary Action Groups. So I will be sending those out to you, and this will be recorded. So anybody that couldn't make it, or if you want to go back and reference it, we'll have that information out to you over the next week or two. And with that, thank you very much, Jay, Wade, and Jim. Thank you so very much. I know you came from all parts of the world, or at least all parts of the United States, to get to us, and we really appreciate your expertise.
Good to be back
Great.
home, Larry.
Yes, again, thank you for the invitation. It was great to be here for you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry, for organizing. Appreciate it very much,
Yes.
and thank you everybody for all the great work you're doing for Rotary.
Okay, we
Thank you,
appreciate
everybody.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
I'm going to close the meeting. Thank you much.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.